Can you tell us something about the Louve and what makes the difference between it and a conventional supermarket?
So the Louve has when you come into it for the first time, it looks a little bit like a supermarket. And we have cleaning supplies, we have sell all kinds of stuff that you would find in a supermarket. But there are fundamental major differences. And so we're what we call technically speaking, we are a food cooperative, and what we call a participative food cooperative. And what that means is the people who traditionally would be called the clients in the cooperative are the owners of the store. So in order to shop at La Louve, you have to buy shares in the cooperative. That can be €100 that you buy those shares, or if you receive some kind of welfare benefits, that's €10. And that's one time you pay that. You don't pay that every single year. And if ever you leave the cooperative, you can sell those parts back to those shares back to the. I usually speak French, and so I say this stuff back to the cooperative. So that's one thing that is fundamentally different, and so that's probably the most important difference, because that allows the real goal of our supermarket to be making the best choices about what we put in the supermarket. So that makes people happy. In a capitalist-based model, you do that as much as you can, but the real goal of the company is to make money for the shareholders. That's clear. So we participate in being a consumer cooperative in a long tradition of consumer cooperatives that started in the 19th century. Then in the 1960s and 70s, there were a lot of little co-ops all over America, all over Europe, which were in that consumer cooperative tradition, but then they decided that they would like to make the cooperation a little bit more profound. Instead of just sharing capital, that they required all of the co-owners of the cooperative to also work at the cooperative. And so that means that people come in to run the cash registers, to put things on shelves. Almost every single one of those experiments in the 1960s and 70s failed. But there's one that not only didn't fail, but became one of the most successful supermarkets in the United States. And that's called the Park Slope Food Co-op. So that's our model at the Louve in Paris. We model ourselves exactly off of their model, where they have 17,000 members who come once a month to run the cash register, clean the store, put things on the shelf, receive deliveries. And that participative aspect, that has two very positive effects in the supermarket. Number one is that it creates a very different ambiance than you find in a traditional supermarket, which is to say it's a human ambiance. People talk to each other, people like to talk to each other. Because you also work there, you feel at home. You don't feel like it's somebody else's space. You've been in the stock reserves, you've been in the places where we keep cleaning supplies. And so it really makes a very informal and very social atmosphere in the co-op. And then the other thing is because members, who are also the co-owners of the store, because they are also doing things like doing the cash register, doing all that kind of stuff, we need many fewer paid employees at the cooperative. We have about 10 at La Louve. For the kind of sales that we're doing in a normal supermarket, we have about 30 to 35. And so what that allows us to do is have very, very good prices. We add 20% to the cost of what we pay for the products, which is very low compared to not only supermarkets, because we carry products that you would find in a regular supermarket, a lot of products that you would find in either an organic shop or kind of a gourmet shop. And with those products, we're often 35 to 40% less expensive. And so it's very different. We externally, we think we've taken the things that are the most positive things about a supermarket. Supermarkets exist for a real reason, and that reason is mostly because people are very busy, because they need to do all of their shopping in one space. They, probably ideally, if we lived in a perfect society, you would be able to go to you'd have a lot of time to go to a bunch of different little places and talk with the people and all that kind of stuff. That's the reality for very few people in the world. And so we take what we consider the positive parts of a supermarket, and then we get rid of the negative parts, how horrible it is to actually physically be in supermarkets. They're one of the least pleasant places to spend time. And then also the fact that our idea ultimately is that currently supermarkets are negative things. They're negative influences in a community. Yes, they give the food, but somebody would have to give the food, and they don't do it very generously. They're there to take money. We have to eat, and then that's somebody's business. And so what we consider an ideal supermarket, where that could be a positive thing in a neighborhood, is that we become like a public library. We become like the public library of food in the neighborhood. We're there to provide the best food that we can for all different kinds of people, with all different levels of income, all different cultural backgrounds. We'll in that way just really open like a public library. And we're there, it becomes a meeting place again. That's one thing that we've really discovered with this project is historically the marketplace is the social place where people always have come together and arrange marriages, do all kinds of things like that. Because most supermarkets, except one supermarket in Venice, which is very beautiful, are so ugly as far as places to be in. We've lost this major social archetype, because that's not a place where you say, we always make the joke that it would be, nobody says in France, where our supermarket is, nobody says, it's Saturday, let's spend the day at Carrefour. It's the silliest joke you could imagine. At our supermarket, people hang around. You know what I mean? They come and they talk with their friends. They maybe go out to a coffee afterwards, things like that. So that's the model.
Do you think that Food Coop model could work in Italy too?
Well, we have to study that. In a most fundamental way, it should really work in Italy for a couple of reasons. It works really well in France. It probably works better in France in a certain way than it worked in America, where they have this one amazing cooperative, but that's the only one. And in France already, we've started one in Paris, but now all kinds of people want to do it, and there are lots of projects underway. And so fundamentally, I think the thing that France and Italy share is that food is really important in the culture, and not just in an official way, not in a pretentious way. People really spend a lot of time at the table, and that's an important thing to them. So that's true in Italy, and everybody is going to be excited if they have the possibility to have higher quality products for the same amount of money that they're spending in a regular supermarket, or to have the same kind of products that they buy usually and save a lot of money to do other things with. I think people will be very excited about that. And then they're just very specific things I also think that Italians are social people, and so I don't think that there are any problems with it. Will be it will be very pleasant for people also to come together and see people once every 4 weeks that aren't necessarily their friends, but people that want to have news about them, everything like that. But then when we get down into the technical things of supermarkets, we just have to see things about what the distribution networks are like here, and what the laws are for how you form cooperatives. I'm quite confident that what we always said. People asked us this question when we imported the model into France, and they said, "Oh, do you think it's possible in France?" And they gave all kinds of reasons why it surely would not work in France, and it does work in France. And what we said to ourselves is, the model is really, it is so natural as a model for human beings to do this thing, to get together and work a little bit together, have a voice in how the supermarket operates, and do that kind of thing in a really informal, collective way, that if it's not possible to do it, then the work is to make sure that it is possible to do it. If there are laws that prevent it, if there are certain economic structures that prevent it, then we need to do some work so that this thing that is much more rational, it's a much more logical way to sell food, to get the people who eat the food be in charge of the selection of the food, than to have it be people who are interested in getting richer and richer and richer choose the food for everybody. So if we consider that normal, and the laws and the economic structure allow that, but would not allow something that is really way more natural for way to do the thing, then we will work on that.